What's going on, party people? It's your man, Stephen Bardo, coming to you with another edition of Bardo's Breakdown. We have 4 weeks left in the regular season in the Big Ten Conference, as well as the other power conferences. And so we're coming down the stretch. We're in the dog days of February, so that means teams are battling injuries. Teams are battling fatigue. Luckily, we haven't had a lot of health and safety protocol flare-ups, although Ohio State, I believe, had a situation last week, and Fran McCaffrey, the head coach at Iowa, missed their last game because he was in health and safety protocols. Things are kind of shaping up to be a monster conference race. Illinois, Purdue, Wisconsin, Michigan State, Ohio State are all within a game of one another. So it's going to really come down the stretch. Who can play well on the road? Who can keep their composure after they maybe lose a tough one? Because all those teams I just mentioned will probably lose before the regular season is out. I don't think the Illini will go undefeated. I don't think Purdue will go undefeated from here on out. They've got a few nice challenges on their schedule. So it's going to be great. Let's get into it. Let's go with the power rankings first. My Big Ten power rankings. So Illinois was really impressive. I got them number 1 in the power rankings. They were really impressive in their home victory over Wisconsin. Kofi dropped a cool 37, tied for most points in a Big Ten conference game, I believe, this season. And then they really took it to Indiana. And the Hoosiers I think they'd only lost 1 game over there all season long. But the Illini took them apart in the second half, looked really good. Coming in at number 2 in the Big Ten power rankings this week, the Boilermakers. They have won 8 of their last 9. And the only reason they're not in number 1 position is because Illinois is number 1 right now in the conference race. But those two are going to meet up tomorrow night. I will talk about that further in games to watch coming up this week. Coming in at number 3 are the Wisconsin Badgers. They lost at Illinois early in the week, and then they came back and had one of the craziest games I've ever called. I was on the call for Penn State at Wisconsin. I'm going to talk about that in story time. Crazy, crazy game. But Wisconsin comes in at number 3. The Ohio State Buckeyes, a team that not many people are talking about right now, they come in at number 4. They got a nice win against Maryland. They had one of their games postponed due to health and safety protocols, I believe, within their program. So they only had 1 game last week, and they took care of business against Maryland. Number 5, Michigan State. Michigan State is only 3-3 in their last 6, and they got pounded at Rutgers. They got beat double figures, and I don't think it was close down the stretch in the second half. Rutgers really took it to the Spartans. Spartans trying to find their way. Boy, do they have a good one tomorrow night. Yours truly on the call, Wisconsin at Michigan State. That'll be one of the games that we talk about to watch this week. Number 6, the Wolverines. Even though they had a tough loss at Purdue, they continue to move up the rankings. They had a good win at home versus Nebraska, and they're starting to round into shape. I think they're starting to hit the level that many people expected them to be at. Hunter Dickinson has been outstanding. I think he had 28 in their narrow loss at Purdue. But the Wolverines are starting to put it together, starting to figure it out. They move up to number 6 this week. Number 7, Rutgers. They recovered from an overtime loss at Northwestern. Northwestern playing really, really well. They had an overtime loss at Northwestern, which is nothing to hang your head about because Michigan State lost at Northwestern earlier this year. And then they come back and pound Michigan State at home in the rack. So, you guys can tell I like saying that, the rack. So Rutgers comes in at number 7. Number 8, the Indiana Hoosiers. We talked about them. They lost at home, double digits at home to the Illini Saturday. And that was their only game of the week. They only had 1 game last week. So Indiana drops down a little bit. Iowa comes in at number 9. Their game against Ohio State was postponed. And then they come back and have a really good home win versus a very competitive Minnesota team that's struggling lately, but still very competitive. Coming in at number 10, Northwestern Wildcats, starting to put it together a little bit. Got a nice overtime victory at home versus Rutgers early in the week, and then go out on the road and blow out Nebraska. Now, you might think, that's no big deal. Nebraska plays people very well in PNB, Pinnacle Bank Arena, in their home court. Northwestern blitzed them. I believe they had 10 or 11 made threes in the first half. They were up 30. Nebraska had to close on an 11-0 run to get it within 22. That's how dominant Northwestern was. They come in at number 10 this week. Number 11, Penn State Nittany Lions. Don't sleep on Penn State. They had a thrilling double overtime victory at home over Iowa. And I'm going to talk about it in story time with Steven. The most improbable game that I've seen all season. They had no business competing in this game, and it came down to a last possession game. So Penn State comes in at number 11. Number 12, Maryland, narrow loss to Michigan State at home, and then they lose on the road to a very good Ohio State team. Number 13 are the Minnesota Gophers. I think they're running out of gas, guys. They don't have any depth. They're only playing really 7 to 8 players, heavy minutes. And they're really starting to run out of gas. They've lost 8 of their last 9. They played Iowa competitively, but Iowa held on to win. And in Nebraska, they have not won a Big Ten game yet. They were very competitive in some of those games. I think they're starting to lose some steam. They got blown out at home by Northwestern. So that's my power rankings right there. Let me see. Mike Flanch, DC Zamates. I hope I said that right. Stephen S. Ryan, 22. Artez, 1982. What's up, Artez? Good to see you. Nick _E. What's happening? Meredith Evans. What's up, Meredith? Good to see you. Tara Lee Miller. Good to see you, Tara. Thanks for joining. Mike Flanch. Wisconsin needs to remember how to shoot. Wisconsin, this team doesn't shoot very well. They're last in the Big Ten in field goal percentage. So this is not a traditional Big Ten team. Jamie Luneman Schrader says Rutgers scares me a little bit. They should. Rutgers should scare a lot of people because Paul Mulcahy is really playing his best basketball of his career. Geo Baker is going to be solid. Ron Harper Jr. is always solid. Cliff Omorie, whatever his last name is, that's a whole nother story. These guys are capable. They weren't playing well at the beginning of the year, but they're definitely capable. But C. Walker Sports was good. TEIO Prep was happening. C. Wilson, 1977. Thanks for joining in. Yeah, Rutgers scares a little bit. I understand that. Let's go to games to watch this week. I've only got 3 on here because I think these are the most important. Tomorrow, I've got Wisconsin at Michigan State, Big Ten Network. That's going to be a heck of a game because the Michigan State Spartans are going to be pissed off from that shellacking that they suffered at the rack to Rutgers. Only 3-3 in their last 6 games. They've got to win to keep pace with the upper echelon of the Big Ten Conference. I don't exactly know what happened at Rutgers. I know that Gabe Brown was, I believe, the only player in double-figure scoring there. Malik Hall got in early foul trouble. Malik Hall had been playing really well. Max Christie as a freshman. You know, these freshmen, as good as they are, Bryce McGowan's, Max Christie, Malachi Branham of Ohio State. These guys are really talented, but they're freshmen. They're going through the Big Ten slate for the first time, so there's going to be some inconsistencies there. But Wisconsin, Michigan State going to be one to watch. That's 6 p.m. Central Standard Time on Big Ten Network. Following that game, probably the game of the year, so maybe up to this point, Illinois at Purdue, 1-2 in the Big Ten Conference. Purdue is rolling, winning 8 of their last 9. Remember, the first game between these two teams in Champaign, it went to double overtime. Corbello came back for the first time, had an outstanding game, 20 points. Kofi Coburn played well, but boy, so did Jaden Ivey for Purdue. And Zach Edey set the tone for those guys. DJ Kirk, 24, was happening. So Illinois at Purdue is on ESPN right after Wisconsin at Michigan State. So Wisconsin, Michigan State, Big Ten Network, Illinois at Purdue. I think Robbie Hummel and Jason Benetti are on the call for that one. Me and Brandon Gaudin on the ones and twos for Wisconsin at Michigan State. And then the other game of the week to watch is Indiana at Michigan State. That's Saturday, and that's on Fox. And yours truly, I'll be with Tim Brando calling that one. The reason I put that up there is because Indiana was playing a lot better. They're trying to solidify their tournament selection. Michigan State is trying to hold serve at home. They've got two great opportunities with Wisconsin and Indiana coming to the Breslin Center this week. So Michigan State wants to keep pace with the upper echelon. They've got two outstanding chances at home versus Wisconsin and Indiana. So those are my games to watch. Let me get because I'll leave a lot of time on the back end for questions and also some of this game I did over the weekend. Let's go to Big Ten Team of the Week. My Big Ten Team of the Week. Oh my gosh, Tony, you're funny, man. I wish you guys on Instagram could see this. Tony, hold on. Let me turn this around so you guys can see this. Tony put up old school shorts there. I don't know if you guys, I hope you guys can see that. I think you can. Wait a minute. There we go. The old school shorts, the nut huggers, the Speedos, the Illini are my team of the week. That's good, Tony. Illini are my team of the week based on some very impressive victories versus Wisconsin and then going on the road at Indiana. Indiana had lost only to Michigan at home, but they'd beaten Purdue. I'm drawing a blank, but they'd only lost one time at home this year. So for Illinois to go over there and win in double digits, that's very impressive. So they are my team of the week. My team that's struggling for this week are the Nebraska Huskers. I was reading a quote. What's up, Anastasia Walker? I was reading a quote. DJ Kirk 214 was good. I was reading a quote from head coach Fred Hoiberg, and he was extremely disappointed with their lack of energy and effort by the Huskers because it was an alumni weekend. And when you bring the alums back, you want the team to play with some extra bit of fire and effort, because the old heads are back. The guys who wore that jersey before you wore it, they came back. And the fact that Nebraska came out with no energy and were flat, I could almost feel the emotion from Fred Hoiberg's quotes in his post-game news conference. So that's why I have Nebraska as my team that's struggling for the week, just because they were competitive. And it's hard, ladies and gentlemen, when you've lost 9 or 10 in a row, to get back up, to get yourself ready to play, to come out and feel good, to not have that indecision in the second half, that's hard to do. So I was tipping my hat to Fred Hoiberg, but boy, they laid an egg the other day, and it just doesn't feel really good when you lay an egg on alumni weekend, because it just sends a bad taste to everybody, the fan base, to the former players, to the current players. It just leaves a bad taste in their mouth. So Nebraska, that team that is struggling right now, I will be in Nebraska next week. A week from Wednesday, Minnesota at Nebraska. Got that one on Big Ten Network. Bardo and Gill, 6'6" monster backcourt, says DJ Kirk 214. Yeah, me and KG were a monster backcourt. I will agree with you on that. Let me see. Let me get to stay on my schedule here. Okay. So let me get to this story time with Penn State and Wisconsin. It's going to be different because I usually would reach back into the archives and come up with a story, but I want to talk to you guys about this game this weekend. So let me set this up. So Penn State is traveling to Madison, Wisconsin. The plane that they were going to use, what's up, Darren Hersey, Adam Hutchison, 91. the plane that Penn State was going to use was stuck in Dallas, Texas, because of the weather, that massive winter system that came through the plains and, well, came through the country really last week. The plane that Penn State was going to use was stuck in Dallas, so they had to get another plane. So they finally somehow get another plane, but they can't fly in until the day of the game. So the Big Ten Network was considering pushing the start time of that game, which was 5 p.m. Central Standard Time, back to 7 p.m. Central Standard Time to give Penn State time to get there, time to get themselves ready to play, and all that. So Penn State gets this plane. The game's at 5 p.m. Penn State leaves State College at noon, I believe it was, Saturday. 6 hours because they're Eastern time. So 6 hours before they're scheduled to tip off against Wisconsin on a nationally televised game, they take off and leave. They land, they go to the hotel, get something to eat, and go right to the gym and start warming up, loosening up, right? So everybody thinks it's going to be a blowout. I had a sneaky suspicion that it wasn't going to be, because I talked about in the open, basketball players are regimented and superstitious. Sometimes when you get out of that regimen, your regimen, and you don't do the same things that you normally do, funny things happen, right? So the first half of the game starts. Nobody can hit anything. Both teams went 2 for their first 22 shots. It was nothing but rebounds and turnovers. It was like Wisconsin had come from out of town. Even though they were at home in their venue, they couldn't hit the broadside of the barn. Neither could Penn State. The halftime score, ladies and gentlemen, was 18-13. The halftime score. Lowest point total in the Big Ten Conference this season. 18-13. And we're all the media people, like the Matt LePay, who is the play-by-play commentator for Wisconsin radio, Hall of Fame guy, great dude. I often talk to him when I do Wisconsin games at, before the game, halftime, whatever. I see him at halftime, and we're looking at each other like, woo. And I'm looking at Dave Resson like, dude, you're going to have to get that Northwestern thesaurus out, because we're running out of ways to describe this, what we're seeing. And I had to remind viewers that, in television, we're taught and we're trained to repeat your best stuff throughout the telecast, because a lot of times, like some of you on this particular show, you'll come in early and you'll dip off. Sometimes you come in mid-flow, sometimes you come in later. So you're instructed to repeat your best stuff over and over again. Zoomer Sports, Andrew Moody, great content from that high school game. I'll get to that in a second. So it was about 5 minutes left in the first half, and I had to I said, ladies and gentlemen, the score on your screen is correct. This is the right score. There's just not a lot of offense in this game. Second half starts. The offense starts picking up. And Penn State did a fantastic job on Johnny Davis and Brad Davison. Brad Davison shook loose a little bit in the second half, but Johnny Davis, I think, had his worst shooting percentage of the conference so far, because Penn State was in his behind. They threw multiple guys at him. He had 3 shots blocked. I've not seen Johnny Davis have 3 shots blocked, 3 jump shots blocked in a game. Penn State was all over him. So they did a fantastic job. Like, just they threw the kitchen sink at Johnny Davis. He had a tough night, but he was smart enough to hit his teammates, and he hit Stephen Crowell, their center, with 2 easy 3-point shots in the second half. So the game starts picking up. Sam Sessoms, Micah Shrewsbury, the head coach from Penn State, starts calling Sam Sessoms' number in a high pick and roll situation. And man, Sam Sessoms, a.k.a. John Bagley, Y'all old heads know what I'm talking about, John Bagley. If you don't know John Bagley, look him up. He was kind of a chubby, kind of a heavy set point guard. Woo, did he have shape though? Oh, he could shake your drawers off. Had crossover, change of pace. He could hit you with his shoulder, hit you with his hip. Sam Sessoms has a lot of that, savviness, tricks in his bag to his game. So Sessom starts getting busy, starts scoring. Greg Lee gets a couple threes, and all of a sudden we got some offensive flow going. We get to 1 minute left in the game. It's a tie score. It's 49-49. Wisconsin holds on to win. They get a nice play to get a bucket with, I believe, with 20-something seconds left. Then they make a defensive stance. But the moral of the story is this. You never know what's going to happen in a college basketball game. Penn State had no reason even being in that game, let alone taking it to the wire. Had no business doing so. But they came out. Micah Shrewsbury told Dave Resson, this is no excuse. We're going to come out and bust our tails and live up to our game plan. And boy, did they ever. I know that Micah Shrewsbury would have preferred to have less turnovers, as would Greg Gard in the first half. It was one of the ugliest first halves I've called in college basketball. But man, that second half was entertaining. The Kohl Center, which is sometimes kind of quiet, it got raucous in there. Because Penn State went up by, there was a juncture where Penn State went up by 5 points. And the folks start getting restless. Brad Davison comes back and hits a three, and he gets the crowd into it. Then the 17,000 wake up a little bit, and it turned into a heck of a game. So the moral of this story is, when you're watching a college basketball game, if it's terrible or crap in the first half, go back, get your favorite beverage, go get something to eat, come back, tune into at least the first 5 minutes of the second half, because it could turn into a whale of a ball game, which we had. Wisconsin 51, Penn State 49. All right, let me get to some of these questions and comments here. Can Johnny Davis still even be in the running for Player of the Year after the games against Penn State and Illinois? Yeah, Jamie, he can. He can definitely be in the running because I believe Johnny Davis is still top 10 in the country in scoring. I think he may be right next to, let me see here. Let me see if I can pull this up real quick. I think he's still in the top 7 scoring. He might be right behind Kofi Cockburn. But yeah, he's still in the running because he's had a couple tough games, but he's one of the best players in the country. So he's certainly in the running for Big Ten Player of the Year. But I'm going to tell you, whose name needs to be put into the mix is Trent Frazier. Doug Altenberger, who was my college teammate, and he fills in on the radio when Deion Thomas can't do the Illinois men's basketball broadcast. I'm listening to the Illinois-Indiana game going to Wisconsin. Dusk Fountain 311, thanks for joining in. So I'm listening to the radio, and I'm listening to Brian Barnhart and Doug Altenberger. Doug Altenberger says in the post-game comments that we hear about Kofi Cockburn. We hear about Trace Jackson Davis. We hear about Johnny Davis. We hear about Keegan Murray. We even hear about E.J. Liddell. He said we need to start talking about Trent Frazier as a Big Ten Player of the Year. And if you think about it, Trent Frazier has had as much to do with Illinois being in first place in the Big Ten Conference as Kofi Cockburn. I'll say that again. Trent Frazier has had as much, if not more, to do with Illinois being in first place in the Big Ten Conference race right now than Kofi Cockburn. You guys remember now, Kofi Cockburn has missed games with concussion. He missed games early in the year with a suspension. He hasn't been there every game. Trent Frazier has. Trent Frazier is playing with a separated shoulder, and he's balling. He was MVP of that Illinois win at Indiana. So if we're going to talk about Big Ten Player of the Year, Trent Frazier's name needs to be added to the mix. All right. Howard Tim Ritter, glad to have you on here, Howard. Thanks for tuning in. Illini second half adjustments seem to be really on par this year. Would you think the staff this year is more in tune with the team's strengths and ability, along with great execution of the scouting report? You know what, Howard? That's a very good point. Illini have made some very good adjustments in the second half. I agree with you. I think that it's a combination of a lot of things. I think the staff is in tune and in step with one another. I also think Trent Frazier and DeMonte Williams being in the mix makes it a lot easier when you're on the road in hostile environments and you're trying to make adjustments. What's up, Antoine Walker? NCAA champion, NBA champion, college and NBA basketball analyst. Good to see you, brother. Hope you're doing well. Thalia V Ball. Good to see you. Thanks for joining. So I think the Illini staff, in addition to the Illini having veteran guard play, is huge. Trent Frazier and DeMonte Williams give you the ability and the flexibility to do a lot of different things, because Trent Frazier is also one of the top 3 defenders in the Big Ten Conference. So he's not only hitting major buckets down the stretch, he's not only making major plays down the stretch, he's guarding typically, he or DeMonte Williams, the opposing team's best player. So the coaching staff is on point. Jeff Alexander, Chester Frazier, Tim Anderson, they're in lockstep with Brad Underwood. But when you got veteran guards like Trent Frazier and DeMonte Williams, that makes it a lot easier. That was a really good point. Great point. Gabe Figliusi. Thanks, Gabe, for tuning in. What do the Illini have to do to win at Purdue? Keep Kofi out of foul trouble. And that's really hard to do. Thanks for the question, Gabe. That's a great question. It's really hard to keep bigs out of foul trouble when you're going up against Purdue. Zach Edey is a load. I'm telling you guys, he's not only 7'4", he weighs the same amount as Kofi does. He's 290 pounds. So he's not only 7'4", can crack your nose and cheek and forehead and eye with the elbow. You can't move him. And if you do try to move him too much, you're making all this demonstrative move and, trying to get your body into him. That's when the officials get you for a foul. So it's very difficult to keep your big man out of foul trouble when you're guarding Purdue. Here's what the Illini should do. Go back and look at the film of when Indiana beat Purdue. And what happened in that game was that Rob Finney had a coming out party. I believe if it wasn't a career high, it was close to a career high. And Rob Finney made plays. You've got to attack the perimeter of Purdue in order to have success. You got to go into Kofi as well. Kofi's got to make Zach Edey and Travion Williams guard. But your guards have to make plays. You got to break down the defense. You got to get past the first line of defense. Purdue does a really good job of first pass denial to try to disrupt your offense. And so they have first pass denial, and they've got bigs on the back. So they can press up on you, force you to make a play, and funnel you into the bigs defensively. Well, this is where Andre Curbelo can come in. This is one of the reasons why I think he had 20 points against Purdue in their first matchup. Andre can break cats down off the bounce and get the ball to Kofi like nobody else. So that's why Andre Curbelo, I think, will be the X factor if the Illini want to even the series this season with Purdue. If they want to get a victory tomorrow over in West Lafayette, Andre Curbelo's got to be dynamic because he's the one X factor that Purdue can't game plan for. They're not going to put Jay Nivey on Andre Curbelo because Andre Curbelo will end up getting him in foul trouble. They won't do that. So Curbelo's going to have his A game tomorrow for the Illini, in my opinion, to get that victory over in Purdue. But boy, is that going to be a good game. Q's 1987, thanks for joining in. Can Michigan figure it out? I think Michigan's starting to figure it out, Q's, but I don't think Michigan is as good as Illinois, Purdue, Wisconsin, or Michigan State this year. I think that at best, Michigan is the 5th best team in the Big Ten this year. I don't think that they can compete consistently with the upper echelon. They played well, Q's 1987. They played well at Purdue, but they just couldn't close out. They played well at Illinois earlier in the Big Ten slate. They played very well at Illinois, and that's the game that I think Michigan started to figure things out. Since that Illinois game when Dickinson and Brandon Johns didn't play, they had a certain toughness and aggressiveness that I hadn't seen this season. They have that now. So they're starting to round into shape. They're a tournament team, but I don't know if they can contend for the upper echelon of the Big Ten slate. Donovan Lang, my man, my Mella, my brother from another mother over in Singapore. Good to see you, brother. Good morning to you. Always appreciate your support. Thanks for joining in. Donovan Lang is a tribe member. If you want to be on the inner circle of Bardo's Breakdown, go to Bardo's Breakdown group on Facebook. Answer the questions. There's 3 questions, and you're in. Very simple. Or text me to 312-847-2739. 312-847-2739. Hope you guys join the tribe. Love to have you on there. Can Kofi's game survive this fast-paced NBA? Donovan, I think Kofi is going to have to really change his game. He's going to have to extend his ability to shoot a jumper. I know he can. I've seen him hit college threes very comfortably when he's just messing around. He can shoot the basketball. He's not a poor shooter. But where Kofi's going to have to improve is that NBA three creates a lot more spacing. So the bigs at the NBA level, when they set that ball screen action, when they're rolling, they're catching around the free throw line. They're not catching in the lane like you do in college generally. They're catching at the free throw line. So when a big catches on a ball screen, a pick and roll, and he catches, he's got to be able to catch, make a decision very quickly, and make the right read. And at the NBA level, Donovan, it's so fast. You cannot believe, pardon me, how fast the NBA game is. So where Kofi's going to have to really, if he wants to stick in the NBA, not just make it, but stick, is in that ball screen action, pick, roll, catch, make the right decision. It's either a kick out, it's either catch, put it on the deck, get to the rim. It's either catch, put it on the deck, the defense comes, then kick. He's going to have to learn that skill set. And in my opinion, he's probably going to have to be about 10 or 15 pounds lighter. I'm not saying he's out of shape right now. That's not what I'm saying. But the difference between 35 and 82 games on your body when you're really heavy, it can really take a toll. And I think that if he was a little bit lighter, he'd be even more athletic because he's athletic right now. The most athletic big. I mean, you could say Travion Williams is, but Kofi's right there. He's very athletic. But I believe if he was 10 pounds, maybe 15 pounds lighter, oh, he'd be a freak of nature in terms of athleticism. But great question, Donovan. Thanks so much for that. Let me see. We got any more good ones, Tony, that you see? Carlos Newbern, Russell Scott, Triple A, Steve Profit, Steve Kirk, good to see you. Russell Scott, Steve Schaefer, Joe Boo. Gabe, thanks a lot for your question. That was a great one. Howard, thanks for joining in. Dory, hey, Dory Melman, Pets Rio, thanks for tuning in. Good to see you. Haven't seen you in a while. Do you think Trent Frazier was overlooked for National Defensive Player of the Year? Don't lose that one, Tony. I'll come back to that one. I think that he's starting to get the recognition now, Dory. It's been a long time coming. National people have a hard time watching all these games, right? It's hard to watch 10, 15 different conferences every night. It's very difficult. So Trent gets overlooked because He's got an All-American and Kofi Cockburn. He's got Andre Corbello, who many think is one of the most dynamic point guards in the country. So he gets overlooked a little bit. But I think if the Illini continue to play well down the stretch, if they can hold on to first place in the Big Ten Conference race and they can do well in the conference tournament, I think that he'll start to get that sort of recognition. But that's a great question. Good to see you, Dory. Can you pull that one back up again for me, Tony? Carlos Newberg, what do you think about Plummer's slumping game? Well, good question, Carlos. Thank you for that question. Plummer is a catch-and-shoot guy. He doesn't do a lot off the bounce. And what happens is teams adjust. Big Ten teams are very good defensively. So they're not going to help off Plummer. Wherever he is, he's going to have a defensive player shading him. His player can't help if his teammate gets beat off the bounce. Because if Andre beats you, if Corbello or Trent Frazier beats you off the bounce and you go to help and he kicks over to Plummer and Plummer shoots a three, you're going to go sit on the bench. So defensively, they're not leaving Plummer anymore. So he's not getting the open looks that he once was. So he's got to figure out a way to get himself more involved. Get defensively, come up with some steals, get out on the, when you get the defensive rebound, run hard and look for a quick three in transition. But he's just not getting the looks that he was once before because Big Ten teams are so good at scouting and they're cutting off his looks. But great question, Carlos. Let me see if we got any others. Monty Broughton says, what's up, Monty? Good. Thanks for this. Maybe we can talk Kofi working it on in another year. Good explanation of Trent's status. Monte, it's going to, I'd love to see Kofi come back. But the fact that he put his name in last, this past, he tested the waters this past offseason, it would be hard for me to think, especially if the Illini make a deep run in the tournament, it'd be hard for me to see him coming back. I thought Kofi was going out this first year because he was so athletic and raw, and I thought that he might go out this first year. I was glad to see he didn't. I'm ecstatic from a selfish point because I'm an analyst, and having All-Americans to cover is great. But it'd be nice to see him come back for another year. I don't know if he will, but we'll see. We'll see. Is Fred Hoiberg on the hot seat? He does, however, have Sierra Canyon 4-star guard Ramel Lloyd Jr. coming in next year. Andrew, that's a good question. You can't lose in Northwestern many times at home by 30 or 20. Can't have that kind of performance. Those type of performances the alums will be patient with you if you're competitive, but when you're not competitive at home to a Northwestern team that's really good, but they're still in the mid to lower echelon of the Big Ten Conference. Alums don't know how good Northwestern is. They just know about Northwestern, and they're like, wait a minute, this isn't Ohio State, this isn't Michigan, this isn't Illinois, this isn't Purdue, this isn't Wisconsin coming in beating us like this. This is Northwestern. So that doesn't sit well. I don't think that he's on the hot seat, but I think that next season is going to be critical for Fred Hoiberg so that people can start to see that the program has a glimmer of hope moving forward. It hurt them that Trey McGowan's went out. Now, Trey McGowan's is back, but he missed a chunk of that beginning Big Ten Conference slate that may have hurt them. So, Andrew, thank you for that question. Your man who you met, Jay Hood, just chimed in. What's up, Jay Hood? Good to see you. I know you met my man, Andrew Moody, at the game. I think you guys were at the Sierra Canyon Glenbrook North game that Sierra Canyon ended up winning. I believe it looked like a great, great time. I'm glad you guys, Carlos Newbern, Fred Hoiberg was not a failure at Iowa State. How do you come up with that? Why do you say Fred Hoiberg was a failure at Iowa State? I believe Iowa State didn't they get to a Sweet 16 under Hoiberg? And I think they were pretty competitive in the Big 12, which when Hoiberg was there, I know one of those years that was the best league in the country. So I don't know. Road 2600, thanks for joining. I don't know why you would say that, but I guess we're all entitled to our own opinions. Will you be calling the Jamie Schrader asked, will you be calling the Illinois Northwestern game this weekend? No, I've got Indiana at Michigan State on Fox. That's going to be a heck of a game. I think Indiana is going to have something to prove at Michigan State, and they need this victory for their tournament resume and their seeding purposes. So it's going to be a whale of a ball game. So no, I won't be calling the Northwestern at Illinois game this weekend. But don't sleep on the Wildcats. They're feeling very good about their performance at Nebraska. That game might be similar to the one that we saw in Evanston at Welsh Ryan Arena, where Northwestern gave Illinois everything that they can handle. So that ought to be a good one. Dan Pearson says, Hoiberg is and always will be a legend at Iowa State. He's the mayor of Ames. I agree. That's why they named him the mayor. I agree. He's always going to have a place at Iowa State. I don't think he was a failure. I thought he did a really good job. My man Andrew puts up Hoiberg at Iowa State, 115-56, which is a 67% winning percentage, 4 NCAA tournament appearances with a Sweet 16 run, and 2 conference tournament championships. Carlos Newbern, you want me to read that again? Hoiberg at Iowa State, 115-56. That's a 67% winning percentage. 4 NCAA tournament appearances. I knew he had a Sweet 16 appearance in there, and 2 conference tournament championships. I don't think that's a failure. I don't know. Maybe you've got an axe to grind. I don't know. But Carlos, what you drinking, man? He didn't have his game plans right to dominate Kansas. Who dominates Kansas in the Big 12? You do realize that Kansas won 13 straight Big 12 conference championships. Carlos, you do realize that, right? So if that makes Fred Hoiberg a failure at Iowa State, then Scott Drew, who won a national championship at Baylor, is a failure. Shaka Smart, who was at Texas, who's now at Marquette. Chris Beard, who was at Texas Tech. Bob Huggins, who's at West Virginia, Hall of Fame coach. Bruce Weber at Kansas State, he's a failure. Bruce Weber, national title game with Illinois. I know I'm missing some. Come on now. We can't have this cancel culture thing and like start throwing stuff out like he never dominated Kansas in the Big 12. Nobody dominates Kansas in the Big 12 except Kansas. Nobody dominates, Carlos. Nobody dominates Kansas. Nobody beats Kansas in the Big 12, really. If we really want to be honest, I think Kansas just beat the defending champions by 20. I think they beat Baylor over the weekend by 20, if I'm not mistaken. So I don't know where you're getting your intel from, partner, but nobody dominates Kansas in the Big 12. And the fact that you can't beat Kansas on a regular basis, that doesn't make you a failure, does it? I mean, because if that's the criteria, then 90% of the coaches in college basketball are failure, in my estimation. But I appreciate your point. I appreciate you standing strong. And I appreciate Dan Pearson and Andrew Zimmer for giving me this information. And thank you, Andrew. I appreciate it. So I think that might be about it. Yeah, Rick Barnes in Texas, Bob Huggins in West Virginia, Lon Kruger in Oklahoma, all probably Hall of Fame coaches. So, good question. This from the Facebook user. Do you think fans should vote for NBA All-Stars? I get tired of greats not getting voted in. Players and coaches should vote players in, and fans vote who starts the game. Now, that's not bad. That's not a bad idea. I know where this Facebook user is getting this from. because there was obviously some situations, and there is every year, but they're not going to change that because the fans are critical to any sport. So the fans have to feel like they're really a part of this. But you make a good point, and I know what you're getting at there. But that's interesting. I do like that point. I do like that. Let me think about that for a little bit, and I'll address that later on in the week. But yeah, and Donovan Lang agrees with you. That is a very, very good point. Okay. Oh, okay. That was Curtis Dietz. Good job, Curtis. You always come strong. Al from Al and Pal Show. What's up, Al? They need to lower the fans' percentage. Okay, that might help. That might help. Why not the media? Right? Why not the media and the coaches? And maybe the players. That might work. JMJ Jones 70, good to see you. That might work. So that's going to do it, ladies and gentlemen. I appreciate you guys tuning in as always. Thank you so much for your time. It's very important. I really appreciate it. Love you guys. You have a great week. I'll be coming to you frequently on Bardo's Breakdown page. So if you want to get notices and everything, join Bardo's Breakdown group. Okay? Go to Bardo's Breakdown group on Facebook. Answer 3 questions, you're in. No problem. Or text me to 312-847-2739. Have a great Monday evening. Thanks, Tony, for putting that picture up. I got my beverage of choice right here. I'm going to enjoy the rest of my evening. Love you guys. Have a great rest of your week. Talk to you later. Peace, y'all.